Move your item.
Had to grab some water. Welcome to the ABCs of Performing, where I combine my love of food with my love of my career to give you an inside look at the crazy life of a performer in New York City. That's a mouthful. I should probably introduce myself. My name is Chelsea Nicole, and I am a professional performer. I have performed for modern dance companies and cruise lines, as well as regional theater, and Broadway will be next, speaking that into existence. It's probably more interesting things that I could say about myself, but I'll think about it later. I feel like there's a lot of things that I wish I knew before I began. Even still in the middle of this career, I'm still learning quite a lot. So I figured I would start sharing the things that I've learned and the things that I know with those who are either just starting their careers or maybe those who have also been in this career for a while and just haven't picked up on these things. So here we are, we'll grow and fall forward together. Today's topic is auditions, whether you like them or loathe them. Actually, I don't really think anybody likes auditions. I think we like the idea of getting a job, but I don't know if I know anybody who actually likes auditions. Maybe you do, who knows? Auditions are the starting point of a performer's life. No, I'm pretty sure birth is the starting point of a performer's life. Rewind. Auditions are the starting point of a performer's career. There are three main points that I want to discuss when it comes to auditions. The first is preparation, second is quantity, and third is learning how to deal with rejection. Point number one, be prepared. Doing something for the first time is always nerve-wracking, and I'm absolutely struggling with this whole vlogging business as I'm trying to create this video now because this is the first time I've ever done this. But the more you do something, the more it becomes second nature. If you never get through that first initial try, you won't ever get to that place where it just feels comfortable. And it's the same with auditions. I tend to go into dance calls first because I feel like that's my strongest skill, if you will. So usually I will go into a dance call. I'll get asked to stay and sing. And then usually for a callback, I'll come in and do some sort of sides, or I might do the sides along with the song. The first time that I had to sing in front of a panel of people was terrifying. I've gotten so used to my body being my instrument that I've forgotten that I had an actual voice. And so stepping up into a room where you have a table of people who are just staring at you. Some of them are, on their laptops or making notes or whatnot. But when I first sang in front of a table full of people, it was hard. I can't say that I sang to the best of my ability that first time, but I've found that the more I've done a singing call, the easier it has become for me. And I actually feel rather comfortable walking into a space, talking to the pianist and singing with confidence now, because it's something that I've done over and over and over again. You have to practice those things before you get into the room. For musical theater, it's good to be in dance classes, and if you can't afford dance classes, there are so many free resources online. Learn choreography from YouTube channels, and then record yourself performing those things so you can give yourself feedback. I'm personally a visual learner. Until I see it, especially when it comes to dance, I'm very kinesthetic, and so I want to feel it, I want to touch it, I want to see it. In your mind, you may think you're doing one thing, but when you go back and watch yourself on camera, it could be reading completely different. And you won't know that unless you're going through and watching yourself and practicing before you get into a room full of people. If you can't afford to be in a classroom, go take class. It is very beneficial to be in a space with other artists who are going to challenge you and push you, especially if you are not the best one in the room. I always suggest that you are not the best one in the room. If you find that you are at the top of the class, then push yourself to a more difficult, more advanced class so you have somewhere to grow. Singing. If that is not something that comes easily to you and you can afford vocal lessons, go take voice lessons. Again, if you cannot afford them, there are so many free resources online. I always say the internet is free. The truth of the matter is, in musical theater, it's very, very rare that you're ever able to just have one skill, especially for tours. They want to make sure that they're getting maximum potential for each individual that they're taking along. So you could be the best dancer, but because you haven't worked on your vocals and you can't sing, you can't cover a principal role, and therefore somebody else who can do both is more likely to be chosen. Same thing goes with acting classes, acting resources online, and making sure that we're practicing those things on a regular basis. What different beats to hit when I'm reading sides, and understanding my character's motivation, even when you get things and you have to be able to do it right away. That way when you walk in, you can feel super confident, because I honestly believe that confidence is the majority of what gets us booked. Knowing who you are and what you do well, and being able to say, here I am, like, here's what I've got, you either take it or leave it. Number 2 is quantity. Tracking. This is something that my friend Natalie actually shared with me that I believe has been like a game changer. Our emotions can sometimes get the better of us, and as artists, we tend to flow out of who we are as emotional beings. There have been weeks where I've gotten to the end and been like, oh, I did so much. I went to this and this and this. It's really easy to get into that negative space when you feel like you've done this much work and you're not seeing the results from it. When I put things on paper and I actually look at what I'm doing from a headspace and not an emotional place, I was finding that I was not doing as much as I felt like I was doing. Can I really complain that I'm not getting a call back or that I'm not getting a job if I'm only showing up to 5 auditions? You could be seeing some of the same casting directors within those 5 chances. They may not be into who you are, into the package that you have to give. I've actually created a tracking sheet that I keep on my laptop now that has all of my auditions. Anytime I go in for an audition or I submit for something online, because I've also been submitting for commercials and other things, it's good to always have things in between gigs. I might do a video on that another time. When we can clearly see in black and white the work that we're doing, it gives us a more realistic expectation and a more realistic perspective of the work that we're putting in. Then we can truly see if we're putting in part-time work or if we're putting in full-time work, if this is what we want to do as our career. Now, it is by no way, shape, or form easy. I do not discount those who have gone to 50,000, what feels like 50,000 auditions. I do want to make sure that you're being realistic in the way that you're seeing the work that you're putting forward. Point number 3 is rejection. It is something that we have to deal with. Especially in this career, though, we have to learn how to deal with the no's, or in a lot of cases, no response. Sometimes would rather hear a no than just crickets. I recently had the amazing opportunity to choreograph the auditions for Disney Cruise Line. It was such an informative experience being on the other side of the room. It really shifted my perspective on auditions. Usually, you walk in and you're like, God, I hope I get it. You walk away not really understanding or knowing why you did or why you didn't, if you did or did not get a call back. Being in that room and after seeing literally hundreds of people who were all very talented in their own right, and then watching who was kept and who was called back, really opened my eyes to a lot. It's not as personal as it feels. A lot of the times it has to do with things that are out of our control. There are some things that we can control. Those are the things that we can practice. Then there are a lot of things that are completely out of our control. Things like height, skin tone, tone of your voice. There are things that just make up who we are as a human being that we cannot change. Those are the things that are usually what these auditions are boiled down to, and what makes the difference between you getting the job and somebody else getting the job. One of the best analogies that I've heard was in regards to food. Whenever you're hungry and you walk into the kitchen, sometimes you know exactly what you want, right? You walk in and you're like, I have leftovers in the fridge, like that's what I'm gonna get. And you go in the fridge, you grab it out, you heat it up, you eat it, and you're good to go. Other times you walk into the kitchen, you have no idea what you want. You just know you're hungry and you want something. And it's not until you open that fridge that something jumps out at you and you're like, that's it, that's what I want. And I feel like it's the same way with casting directors. Hundreds of people walk into those rooms every single time they do auditions. And sometimes that casting director knows exactly what they want and they're like, this is very specific. I want apples and peanut butter. You're not apples and peanut butter, so even though you're great, you're not going to get kept. Sometimes they don't know what they want, and so they'll kind of scan and they'll see what jumps out at them, and they'll keep those people and then send everybody else out. Being a part of that experience made it so much less personal for me. Whenever I've left an audition before, I would leave and just feel like, oh my gosh, I must have sucked. Maybe I was a great dancer in Maryland, but in the New York dance scene, maybe I'm not that good. I think sometimes we can kind of compare ourselves in these weird ways that really have nothing to do with anything. If you're not careful, you'll allow that negativity to live in your headspace, and that'll keep you stuck. You'll find yourself hiding. For me personally, I went through months of just not showing up to auditions. I would see auditions of shows that I wanted to perform in, but I just could not physically get myself to go to them. It took me a while to realize that I was living in this space of fear. I was just afraid of being rejected again. Part of what helped me get out of that headspace was the tracking and realizing that even though I felt like I was being rejected so many times and so often, it really wasn't that much. I'd been to maybe a handful of auditions. After putting things down on paper and realizing that I wasn't actually giving myself the shot that I deserved to give myself, considering that this is what I went to school for and this is what I've chosen to do as a career, it helped push me a little bit more. And then also remembering who you are. It is so important, especially for those of us whose art is our career, that we stay connected to why we did this in the first place. What made you choose to be a dance major? What made you choose to be a musical theater major? What made you choose to pursue this at whatever age it is that you decided to pursue this? Come back to that why, because that is what's going to drive you. Put those reminders in front of your face. Put them on your bathroom mirror. Put them on your wall. I have an entire wall here that you've probably noticed that is just goals and checklists and things that keep me motivated and that keep my headspace in a place of positivity and in a place of remembering why I do this and why I'm so passionate about it. Also getting into spaces that allow you to just be creative for the sake of being creative. Those of us who do this as a career, sometimes we can get a little lost in the sauce. There is a business side of the arts, and then there's also the fun, creative side of the arts as well, which is usually what our hearts are connected and drawn to. It is super vital that we stay connected to the why and we stay connected to what actually gives us that childlike joy and wonder that we have whenever we're engaging in our chosen art form. As a dancer, I have to make sure that I go take dance classes every once in a while and that I remember to just dance for myself. I worked for Disney Cruise Line for 4 years. I did 4 of the same shows for those contracts. It was so much fun performing such iconic shows like Frozen and Aladdin. We also had 2 review shows called Wishes and Believe. I got to close wishes on the fantasy. But I, for a while, lost the fact that I also had something to say through my own art as well. And I had forgotten that I love to choreograph and that I love to create as well as performing other people's creations. And so just coming back to that space where I just move for the sake of moving, or I just create a dance just for myself, and not because I was hired to do it or because somebody asked me to choreograph to a certain song, but simply because it's something that my heart connects to and that I enjoy doing it. Anyways, those are my 3 tools for auditioning. I hope that you found them at least somewhat helpful. Let me know what your thoughts on auditions are, whether or not you enjoy them. I would love to hear if there's somebody who actually loves auditions, because I have yet to meet a single person who does. So if that's you, drop that below. I'd love to chat with you. If you have any other questions or anything concerning auditions, or if you have any other advice that has been helpful to you, feel free to drop that below as well. Yeah, that's all. I don't really know how to end these things. Why am I so awkward? I'm choking. This is harder than I thought. Si se puede. Now my mouth is sticky. You can do it. You can do it. But my bangs are trying to escape. There's so many bobby pins. Is that a bug? Someone's gonna die today. Okay, I'm back. Channel, a really good vlogger. Geez, I'm gonna have a lot to edit.